Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Redneckanize, the home of the do-it-yourself trucker. When everything goes wrong, you gotta Redneckanize. One of the great things that's going on out there in trucking that I thought was really cool, because it's been going on for a while, but the federal government is just now pushing for it, and they've got kind of a pilot program that they're kicking into gear. And there's a lot of organizations against it, and there's a lot to support it. So I thought that I wanted to go over that. But it made like the regular news recently. And here just toward the end of the month, that the Washington Post actually put out an article about the federal pilot program about letting 18-year-olds drive interstate trucking. So it says federal pilot program would open long distance trucking to 18-year-olds. That's the headline, which, people out there in the regular world probably are skeptical to say, why isn't that already? The only thing that you couldn't do under the age of 21 in the United States right now is drink and buy firearms. Everything else is 18. So they're wondering what that is, because you can join the military at 18, but you can't drive a big rig at 18. And I thought that was unusual. So, what my opinion of it is that, it's okay. We should be. Right now, I looked it up. 49 states allow drivers to be under the age of 21 at 18, 19, 20 years old, drive inside the state. Can't leave the state, because then you cross over into federal regulation. And that is the current laws in most of those states. There are some restrictions in some states about their training requirements and all that. But as it stands right now, that's a regular rule in most states. The only thing is it's not a federal rule. So the article starts off by, a federal agency is proposing a pilot program to allow people as young as 18 to drive trucks across the country. The idea enthusiastically supported by trucking companies as a way to open the door to recruit in high schools, but facing deep opposition from safety organizations that say it will lead to immature drivers causing more crashes. The idea of lowering the age limit for interstate truckers has been around for at least 2 decades. It has gained traction in recent years, with a bipartisan group of lawmakers in Congress proposing legislation in addition to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration pilot program. Bill Sullivan, Executive Vice President for Advocacy at the American Trucking Association, said companies see an opportunity to open a new path for workers without a college degree and to reduce instability in their workforce. And I understand what they're saying in all these, the immaturity thing. Let me just tell you, as a truck driver, I've been a truck driver since 1997, and there is no difference of immaturity. Okay, I've seen immature truckers at the age of 60. I've seen immature truckers at the age of 24, 25. So just because the guy's 18 doesn't make him immature, or especially doing the job, because that's the thing, is it's be able to do the job. Just because somebody is 24 or 23 or even 21 for that matter, because a lot of companies, for a while, a lot of those companies, they wouldn't hire you unless you were 23, 24 years old. They wouldn't hire you if you were 21, because I guess they're trying to, they saw that training someone 21 could be more difficult than training somebody at 23. I don't know, but there was a lot of rules like that. You have to be at least 23, 24 years of age to work for certain companies. And a lot of these bigger companies that are recruiting out of high school, well, they pay for all that stuff, and that stuff's expensive. And I don't think these big carriers want to spend a lot of money if they're not going to get benefit out of it. So it's one of those things where I think they would like to try the law, but they don't necessarily want to push for that. There are a lot of carriers out there that push for everything to be able to train more people at once. I think everybody's seen the videos where CR England has beds set up to where 3 people can be at the truck at once. So as long as there's 3 beds, I guess there can be 3 drivers, I guess is how the rule is. So there's always either 2 sleeping or 1 driving, and there's always a trainer, like that. And, there's always a loophole around certain rules like that. So you're always going to have people taking advantage of that the best way they can. So you've got to focus, I think, on the training standards. I would agree that training standards are more important than age restriction, because the maturity level, it's not there. There's no difference to me, in my opinion, about maturity level for an older person rather than a younger person. You know, I mean, I know truck drivers that started driving truck when they were 16, 17 years old because their family was in the business. So they learned how to drive on the yards or in facilities or around towns that they knew or whatever. And then when they turned 18, they got their CDL and drove in state, never left the state. And then, you know, so now I know them, they're like almost 30 years old and they've been driving truck for more than 10 years, you know, so that it doesn't, to me, there's no difference. You know, you do the job, you get trained right, and you're going to be all right. So I don't think age restriction has anything to do with that. You know, the article keeps on going here. This, like I said, this was in the Washington Post, and I thought it was pretty cool because it's like, you know, it's national news. It's not just a trucking magazine. It's actually a newspaper. Well, you know, paper, whatever you want to call it. So it continues by, it says, the reason that we want to reach people at the beginning of their work life is so that we can present a career in trucking that can support their life and career over a longer period of time, Sullivan said. But major safety organizations have rallied in opposition to the plan, arguing that data shows drivers younger than 21 are far more dangerous on the roads. Beta testing on public roadways where everyone is imperiled is not the safest way to test this science experiment, said Kathy Chase, president of Advocacy of Highway and Auto Safety. 49 states and the district allow drivers under 21 to obtain commercial driver's licenses, but they are prohibited from crossing state lines. Interstate driving is essential in many trucking jobs, and supporters of lifting the restrictions say it's illogical to allow a teenager to drive a truck across a big state like Texas while confining others to a small state like Rhode Island. And you know, that's just so funny. So they say that drivers are more dangerous under 21, but then, like I said, 49 states allow them to drive in state. So they're out there driving. There's, you know, but like I said, the legislation has the support of 145 members of the House and 36 senators, mostly Republicans. The bills have not moved forward since being introduced last year. since being introduced last year. So what I think that would be is an important thing because, you know, if the Republicans support it, naturally Democrats oppose it. Isn't that how it works? I mean, if one side supports something, the other side has to be against it. I mean, that's just the rule. So you never know with all that. But, you know, hey, before we go on any further, I'd like to send a shout out to one of our great sponsors, and that's Trucker Tax Tools. They've been supporting us, giving us a lot of help with the truck shows. You know, we all like going to the trucking shows out there, especially Louisville. We would set up in the parking lot and cook dinner and all that. And that's been real difficult for us to do during the pandemic and everything. And of course, a lot of shows got canceled. So, you know, we're going to try to keep up with that. But of course, a lot of the restrictions because of the pandemic and the COVID with the social distancing and everything makes it really hard. So we're kind of just, you know, waiting to see what everybody else says about everything. And hopefully we'll be able to be back doing that. But you can still catch us on YouTube and Facebook and of course Instagram and Twitter, and we're always out there. You can get a hold of us. We got a website, redneckanize.com. But Trucker Tax Tools has been really helping us out with when we go to the show and promoting us and sending people our way, and of course we send people their way. Great bunch of folks over there, and they've always supported a lot of different people and groups, charities, and everything from the trucking industry. And I just think we should support the companies that support truckers. And that's just my opinion about the whole thing. And I think that's a great way to look at everything. So check them out. That's Trucker Tax Tools. And they're on Facebook and everything too. They're a great bunch of guys. So we love them. And we hope to get to see them at the truck shows. They always put on a great deal. They set up a booth where there's a little stage, and they'll bring out a lot of truck drivers that are performers and singers and stuff and everything. So we hope to get them out there and see them again. We hope that everything goes well. So see how that plays out. But to continue on with this minimum age requirement deal, is the Federal Trucking Agency in reviewing comments on a proposal, and it's not clear when the program would begin or could begin. The incoming Biden administration could decide to scrap or substantially revise the idea. I don't know this guy's first name, Reyes, 19, the son of a truck driver, got his commercial license at 18 and now owns a truck. He said he has turned down jobs that would require him to cross from his home state of Florida into Georgia. Really frustrating not being able to cross state borders after I drive 11 hours inside Florida, he wrote in an instant message. Now, see, there you go. And to me, that's the person right there. They're not in the bubble because they got taught by drivers. They're in a driving family. Those are the ones, maybe there's got to be some kind of rule that they can say, well, if your parents are truck drivers, then you can be included in the program or whatever. At least something. I mean, we can't be afraid. These big carriers are out there, and of course they're going to be doing bad things. We know that they do these things. We call them puppy mill schools, where they just turn out students. They turn out truck drivers and they don't fail anybody. And we know that's bad, but they haven't been held accountable. They haven't been restricted. The only thing we can do is get the word out to when people are looking to go to school to become a truck driver, is to maybe avoid those big carriers, when they can. I know that when I was entering the business, I didn't know too much about the industry, where I could have gone into some smaller company to learn, heavy haul or more detailed flatbed or, some kind of specialty. I didn't know too much of that. So when I just kind of fell into the big thing, because that was the only thing out there, and they're the only ones spending money to be told out there. And of course, back then when I started, there was no YouTube, so I couldn't go search on the internet and find all this information about these smaller carriers. So, and we see it all the time, to where a driver that's been out there 30 years or 5 years or 3 years, they just get on Facebook and look for a job, and they find their dream jobs just because they saw a post on Facebook. And, that kind of thing, it's happening more and more, especially with people that are 18 years old, getting out of high school, looking for a great job. They see all these people hiring truck drivers and needing truck drivers, and they want to be a truck driver, but they can't. And then they don't really know that they can get in with a company or some kind of system to where they can drive in the state. And now with this deal here, hopefully they'd be able to get in to learn. And there's a lot of them out there, they're seeking to become a truck driver, and those are the ones that we're missing out on. They might end up becoming something else, like a mechanic or something that, and they might go into the military, which no bad thing about that, but if you don't have to, don't. Let's look at your future. So let's think about things like that. So you never know, things are different. That's to each his own. That's the best part about this whole life that we're going through, right? To each its own. It says a group representing the trucking industry asked the federal government to launch a pilot program in 2000, but the idea didn't move forward. In 2016, Congress told the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration to conduct a pilot with drivers age 18 to 20 who had military truck driving training, but few people leave the military at such a young age, and the program has struggled to attract qualified drivers. Well, there you go. So they were looking for drivers under the age of 18, but they had to be prior military. Well, of course, you go in, if you sign the dotted line for 4 years, you go in at 18, you're going to be 21 or 22 by the time you get out. So, that's silly to think that's going to be easy. Most of those guys had military. They probably got kicked out. In 2019, the agency proposed a broader pilot, and this past fall, published a design for a 3-year program. The agency said it would seek to recruit at least 200 drivers, and they would be required to carry out 240 hours of driving as part of the probationary period, or already have a year and 25,000 miles of experience driving within state borders. Participants wouldn't be allowed to drive buses or haul hazardous materials. The proposal also includes requirements for technologies like automatic braking, video cameras that record the driver, and speed limiters devices set at 65. So there you go. They're letting the drivers, they're introducing a program to let the drivers drive at the young age, 18, 19, 20, but they got to have all this technology in the truck. So that right there would just automatically eliminate a lot of the small carriers, and especially Mr. Reyes, who has his own truck. So now he's got to go buy all this special stuff for his truck to be able to be part of the program. That doesn't seem right. To gauge their success, the younger drivers would be compared against a group between the ages of 21 to 24. I would broaden that out. I would make groups of every age level. I would make groups at 30 to 35 and 40 to 45. I'd be interested in seeing that, because I bet you there's no really big difference. When I was a part of a big carrier, they sent out a deal telling us that their biggest accident increases happened. So when a driver comes in between their first year, between like just starting out, their first year of driving to their third year of driving, accidents were like high. Okay. Then they'd fall off. And then after about the 6th or 7th year of driving, they start rising back up again. So what they see drivers messing up. And of course, a lot of drivers get funneled out through the system after being there 2-3 years. But then once the driver passes the third year, their accidents start going down to where they're more safe conscious, and they're not really worried about trying to, hustle that much. They're just worried about safety. But then after a while, like I said, in the 7th and 8th year, the accidents start going back up again. And what that shows them is that drivers get complacent and they need more training. So a lot of these companies, if you're part of a big company, you know what I'm talking about. Every so often you need to watch safety videos, and every so often they have trainers or safety people sit with you and talk to you, or you have to go to a class or whatever. They always have these functions to basically, they know all this research that they have tells them you need to be able to go to these classes at this particular time, because we think that based on the research, you're starting to lose focus. And they felt that it's helped, but I think that curve is still about the same right in this day. So it's like I said, the age doesn't matter. The maturity level is through all ages, and the training level is through all ages. So you can be highly trained and not be able to handle it maturity, or you can be poorly trained and be real mature and be good at it. So you just never know. But informal comments on the idea. Robert L. Sumwalt, chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board, questioned the design of the program. Older drivers would not be subject to the same limitations and technologies requirements, and the restrictions would mean the participants would not be representative of the industry as a whole. And see, that was just the point I was just making, that you're letting the older drivers do what they want to do, and you bring in the younger drivers with all these restrictions and then all the safety equipment required, and you're not getting the breakdown of the whole industry. So you need to just take the numbers off of what's already out there. I mean, like I said, we've got drivers. We got Mr. Reyes there driving down the road under the age of 21. He doesn't leave the state of Florida. Is he out there having accidents? Well, if he's not, then he should be able to cross over into Georgia when he needs to. I mean, that's just bottom line, right? Somewhat acknowledged labor supply issues in the industry, but added the NTSB does not believe that allowing an age group of drivers who are consistently overrepresentative in crash involvement and who might not yet have the cognitive maturity to safely operate commercial vehicles interstate is the right solution to these problems. He continued, any solution should come without creating significant safety risks to the rest of the motoring public. While several industry organizations support the idea, truckers are not uniformly behind the plan. A group representing independent drivers says it shares safety concerns and worries that opening the door to younger truckers would primarily benefit big fleets. And of course, that's OIDA saying that. We know that. You don't even have to say their name. Jay Grimm's director of regulatory affairs for the Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association said lowering the age limit is an effort by big companies to secure access to a new labor pool while sidestepping concerns about bad pay and work conditions. That's their motivation, Grimm said. Sullivan of the American Trucking Association framed the issue differently. He said truck drivers typically get their start in their jobs after not finding a fit in another field. But by that time, they are more likely to have kids and face additional strains in entry-level jobs that require long spells on the road. People float in and out of the truck driving, and it's a fairly high turnover, Sullivan said. The age limit proposal is part of what Chase's group sees as an effort by the Trump administration to chip away at the safety protections in trucking. The trucking agency changed the rule on the hours drivers can work, which Chase said will lead to more tired drivers and has delayed the implementation of new training standards. Chase said she could support lowering the age limit if there was ever any independent research that we had confidence that it was safe for teen truckers to travel on interstate roads. So I didn't know what you guys want to think about it. You can always call into our Blog Talk Radio, Unplugged Radio Network at 516-387-1733. You can comment on our Facebook page or even on our YouTube channel when we post videos on there. We really appreciate everything, what everybody's doing out there. So we're going to step away here a little bit and take a little break, and we'll be right back in just a second. Stay safe and stay successful, and we'll see you out there on the road.